Hello, and welcome to the third lesson in the third fetter. This lesson is the lesson that is going to prepare you to go from the first three fetters and into the fourth and the fifth fetter. So it's important for you that you have practiced the fetter work, that you have followed the curriculum, and that you have done the exercises, that you have had a daily application of the fetter work. Because otherwise, it might very easily turn into a very cerebral experience. And what I would like for you to do with the Awakening curriculum is to live it. So there's going to be an exercise today, which I would like for you to continue to do daily throughout the next many fetters. And it's really preparing you to go into the fourth and the fifth. The fourth fetter is about desire, all the things we want. And the fifth fetter is ill will. And as we talked about in the last lesson, there are a lot of things which is like the basic care areas, the 10 basic care areas that we talked about, that you can see when you look at that there are a lot of things in that if you're just in the ego, there's a lot of things which you want, and there's a lot of things which you don't want. So obviously I would like for you to have done the exercises and really looked into that pure being, that present awareness that you have in the moment when you feel into what you want to eat, if you want to exercise, what exercise you want to do, and all of those things. And we're going to go deeper into that today. From this lesson and onwards, there will be a core life view which you will have with you, which will change how you used to do and then how you're going to do it from now on. So make sure that before you have this lesson that you are completely on board with thoughts being thoughts, and just, like any other sensory experience, they're not holding any truth whatsoever. That feelings and emotions, as we work with in the second fetter, are just feelings and emotions. There's no truth to them at all. And a lot of feelings and emotions, it's a sensory experience that we have that we are attaching a thought to, and that is what we're calling a feeling or an emotion. So those two things need to be in place for us to move on with the fetter work. And that's what we're going to do with this lesson. Make sure that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be before we move on. And obviously, if there's something which you're still struggling with, or which you still haven't really understood, then also remember that when you're going back to the first fetter or to the second fetter, it's not a going back, it's a going deeper into. There's more that you need to look at with that angle, and that is why you are going back to working with the first or with the second fetter. And again, it's not a linear process. It's not an exam where you start in the first grade and then move to the second grade and then the third grade, and the third graders are so much better than the first graders. It's not how it is. It's not how it is. It's just about understanding the different levels of identification. And if you still have identification with thought, then it is the first fetter that you work with. If you still have an identification with feelings or emotions, it is the second fetter that you work with. So just see it like that, and be honest toward yourself that if there's something that you're still struggling with, that do the work. Go back to the material, go back in the material and pick out the things that you need so you can work with that. So my starting point for this lesson is also that you are aware that expectations usually are tied into that ego, martyr, victim role. And that every time you compare, that is always ego. I assume that where you are now, that you know that whatever comes up, the only thing you need to do is just create space for it. whatever thought you have that is giving you a sensation or a feeling about low self-worth or um, guilt or shame or fear, anger, that by now you are aware that you don't need to do anything about it. The only thing you need to do is just create space. Know that whatever happened when it happened, there was an understanding on a physical level in the meat suit, in the body. And that is what needs space. That is what you need to create space for. So it's not so much having that intellectual understanding of this and that happened, so therefore now I need to do this and that. That is more like frontal lobe ego thing. Very often we don't really need that, and it doesn't lead to anywhere. What we need is just to allow the body to have the experience that the body has. And that will be that sometimes you just, the body starts to cry, you start to cry, and you don't really know why you do or why you cry. It just happens. And that's because something is being working through, and all you need to do is just create space for it to be there. It can also be that you suddenly feel blissful and you have no idea why. You just do. So you just create space for that being the case right now. You don't need to intellectually understand why you feel blissful or create a little story about why it is as it is. It's more just that, creating the space for whatever is happening, whatever is coming up. And also remembering that since this moment does not need anything, there's nothing that needs to be improved and nothing needs to be removed. Everything in this moment is as it is, and so are you. So are you. So you are everything at the same time. And that is exactly like it's supposed to be. Remember in the first Fetter when I talked about that, having that metaphor of the big house. And there are lots of different rooms in the house, and that's all the different aspects of your personality, all the greed, anger, delusion, but also happiness and joyfulness and compassion and love and everything that we can experience. We are. And when we allow things to be as they are, we also allow everything that we are to be as it is, which means that nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen. Nothing can't change. That's the delusion that we can have with the ego, that the ego convinces us that we can change and the moment can change and something can be different than it actually is, and that's not possible. It's not possible. It's just part of the ego delusion. So by now, I assume that you, when I'm sitting and saying this, you go, yep, I know that. I know that. I have had amazing experiences. I am with whatever comes up. I'm just creating space for that and just being with that. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to happen. Everything is as it is, and that's fine. That's where I am assuming that you are. And then I would like to remind you of, do you remember back in the first Fetter when I talked about that the only feeling is contentment? That there is no other feeling than contentment. If you have any other feelings, it's usually ego. So contentment is that feeling where there are no hooks into anything, that nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen. It's just a feeling of contentment. Like you might say, but what about happiness? Yeah, well, happiness come and go. You are not always happy. You don't always feel love, but you can always feel contentment. So if you really look into that, in the moment right now, do you feel that? Do you notice that the only feeling is contentment? That you might put other words on and say, well, it's also happiness and it's also compassion, it's also love and all of that. It's completely fine, completely fine. In its core, in its foundation, it's that sensation of contentment. It's that, sensation of contentment. that there's nothing that needs to be any different. That how it is and how everything is right now, the only feeling, sensation that can arise in you is contentment. And also that the only action you can ever have is kindness. Kindness towards you, kindness towards others. The way that you do things in life, you can do with an undertone of kindness. That is the two things that spring automatically when we're not ego involved in any way, because everything else is ego. So the two tones, sensations, feeling tones that we can have is contentment and kindness. There isn't really much else. It's that where you can say, well, what about compassion? Isn't compassion important? Yeah, of course it is. But compassion can very easily be conditional. And anything else but contentment can very, very easily be conditional. Contentment and kindness are the two things where nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen, it just is. So put yourself in that position where you sit and breathe right now, and you feel how the body is getting calm. And just by sitting and breathing right now with me, you feel how with every exhalation, you're kind of falling into gravity and being more and more heavy and present. And you just feel that contentment and kindness. Contentment about what is right now, and you slowly just dissolve the thoughts that come up. And it's just contentment. And if a thought comes in, just allow it to pass. You don't need to attach anything to it. You just allow it to be there and then pass again. If we don't think about the thought, it just disappears. And thoughts are a sensory experience. Thoughts just happen, just like smells just happen and sounds just happen. Thoughts just happen. It's the content of a thought, which is the ego. That's the post-it. So a thought can happen, and a thought just disappears. And that's it. It doesn't have any influence. Like a cloud that is making a shadow on the lawn, that's it. And when the cloud disappears, there's not a shadow on the lawn anymore. It's the same with a thought. It just comes and goes. It's the content of the thought. When we grab a hold of that, you probably remember that I talked about that we have it's like we have that million different thoughts, and they just come up, and the ego grab hold of one of them, and that is the thought that we have the most drama about. And then we hold on to that thought and start to think about that thought. And that's the thing with the ego. The thing with the thought. It's always about something. And that's the difference with contentment. Because with contentment, nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen. There's not even a thought that can improve or detract anything from this moment. It just is. So reality unfolds itself in every single moment. And as soon as we think about a moment, it's already passed. And that unfolding in the moment is where when you really zoom into that. And you do that by every time a thought comes up, as we talked about previously, that whenever a thought comes up, you just allow it to come up, and then you just, let go of it and go back to this present moment. And that is the present moment where nothing needs to happen and nothing needs to change, where it just is as it is. So there are no striving and no expectations and no wishes or anything. It's just what is right now. And when you make contact with that being in the present moment, it's also where there is that very, very clear state of being where the sensory experiences just happen. There's no wish for anything to be any different. And that's where you move from. And this, what I'm sitting and talking about now, is actually ninth fetter stuff. But as we talked about previously, the third fetter is paired with the ninth fetter. And that's why this lesson is named Presence and Flow. Because I would like for you to start being aware of that movement in the present moment, where you are with that movement or that flow, or where everything unfolds with synchronicity, where you are moved to getting up and going out and peeing, and you're moved to getting up and going for a walk or having a glass of water or call a friend. But there's no planning about it. Like we talked about last time, that obviously if you're going to work at 8 o'clock, then you need to put an alarm on and wake up in proper time so you can aim for being at work at 8 o'clock. You cannot guarantee that you're going to be at work at 8 o'clock. So it's putting things in the right place or the right vibration for them to unfold themselves. So you go to bed in proper times, you get your full sleep, you wake up in the morning, you do the move about in your morning. Instead of going from what you normally do in the sequence that you normally do, you move with that present awareness, with that being in the moment, where you go and pee, you have a glass of water, you have a cup of coffee, you make your lunch box, whatever you do, get dressed, and you just move with that. I'm going to give you an exercise later in this lesson that is going to help you in the moment to differentiate between what is the present moment and what is the assumption of the present moment, because there's a difference in that. But it's really zooming in to that 0 point that you can be in and stay in. And which, funnily enough, is the only place you can be. You're already there. You're already there. It's the only place that any of us ever can be. But we're just so used to being in the mind. And the mind is never here. The ego is never here. It's always in the future or in the past. It's never ever here. So it's just practicing getting back to the present moment, to the awareness that is right now, the experience that is right now. And then letting go of an experiencer. There's nobody participating in that experience in the present moment. Be careful about that one, because it's very easy to, just like it's very easy to identify somebody who doesn't identify, it's also very easy when you are in your experience to see it as I am experiencing, I am an experiencer, I am participating in the present moment. If that happens, then zoom back to the first fetter. So you can let go of the sensation of a you being there and participating and doing anything. This lesson is about looking into that experience that is happening. There's obviously no one to experience it. Yeah. So all decisions that you are making when you're in that present moment are based on a need for rest, or a need for a bathroom break, or a need for water, food, cuddles, a need for anything. And that is where the movement is happening and the decisions are made in moving in a direction. But where there's no hooks into it happening. So if you have a need for a glass of water and the water company has turned the water off, then there's not a hook into you wanting water, and then there was no water, and then a full story is about that. Then it's just moving with what is right now, because remember, the moment doesn't need anything. So if you had an expectation or an assumption about you having a glass of water when you turned on the water and nothing came out, then in that moment it's just, oh, there's no water, and that's it. And then there's no more stories about it. There's no more hooks into anything being any different than what it is in this moment. You see? So there's like that movement with a need, but no hooks into the need actually being met. Because that's when the ego is going back in the driving seat and having that feeling of an I that is doing. You see the difference? So whenever we have a perceived obstruction of something, for example, I want a glass of water, I go to turn on the water and the water company has turned it off, that perceived obstruction that I can have in that is not about the water not being there. The problem doesn't lie with me not having water when I have a need for water. It's not where the problem is. The problem is that I had an expectation about water, and I had expectation about having my need for water met when I turned it on. So seeing that difference in what is actually reality, no water, and what was my expectations about it. I wanted a glass of water. Yeah. So any perceived obstruction only lies in the mind. It's just a perceived obstruction. There is no obstruction. There's nothing in the moment that needs to happen. If there's no water, there's no water. Yeah. If you have any questions, promise me you write in the comment section, and I'm gonna collect all of them and make a video about it. Yeah. So I would like to make an exercise with you, and this is the awakening exercise. It is where I would like for you to get comfy, and we do it right now. I would like for you to get comfy. You can have your eyes closed or you can have your eyes open. It's completely up to you. I think in the beginning it's easier with your eyes closed. And just breathe and exhale. And make an inhale. And feel how when you exhale you fall into gravity and your whole body gets very heavy. And I would like for you to pull your awareness into the sensory experiences of the body. So it's what you're feeling. It can be your bum in the seat. It can be your lungs expanding. It can be your heartbeat. It can be your hands resting on your thighs. It can be anything you're feeling right now, and it's all the sensations that you're hearing. So my voice, background noise, the body that is working, like your breath, rumbling in the stomach. It's everything you smell. It can also be that you can't smell anything. Anything you taste. And those are the sensory experiences. Those are what you're experiencing right now. And this is all there is in this moment. If you have a thought that is coming in, then that is just a thought. Notice that a thought can enter. If I say elephant, then you probably have a visual picture in your mind of an elephant. But if you don't attach anything to it, if you don't go into details of whether it's, an Asian or African elephant, or whether it's pink, blue, or green, or that your mind is now having 2 elephants instead of 1 elephant, and you don't go into any of that, but you just allow, the thought of an elephant to come in, and when the thought is done, it just disappears. Then you think of a car, and the thought of a car just come in and disappears. It doesn't need to have a specific car, specific color, anything. It doesn't even need to be your car, just a car. And at some point, that thought just disappears again. And if you don't hold on to the thought or do anything about the thought, but just allow the thought of a car. And now it's a bird. So it's just a bird coming into your mind and a bird disappearing, and then the thought start to think about something else. So I would like for you to notice if that is possible for you to do. So you have your thoughts coming in as if it's a sensory experience. It's just a thought. Just like a sound is a sound, and a taste is a taste, and a smell is a smell. A thought is just a thought. And the practice I would like for you to do is to notice when you latch onto a thought. When the ego is latching onto the thought and creating a little story about that thought. So if I say bike, then you might create a little story about the bike, that is your bike, or oh, my bike has a flat tire, or anything like that. And then notice that when that happens, it goes from a thought of a bike to be something about a bike. And that about is always placed in the future or in the past. That's one thing. The other thing is that there's something in that about the bike that you have to do. You're moving yourself in your thought away from where you are right now into doing something with the bike or about the bike. And from that moment on, you're thinking about the post-its that the thoughts put on the bike. So because it's now about the bike, all thoughts happening from that point on is about what you thought about the bike. So it's a post-it on a post-it on a post-it on a post-it. You're away from this moment, and you have latched onto a thought about a bike, where if you hadn't, you would already have moved on in your thought and would have been thinking about a flower or a tree or a mouse or anything else. That I would like for you to notice, because that is the moment where you're removing yourself from the present moment. You're removing yourself from the experience and into a pseudo reality. And that pseudo reality is where the majority of us are living our lives. That's the thoughts about something in the future, in the past. So you have experiences on one side, and you have assumptions or thoughts on the other side. And this exercise I would like for you to do daily in lots of different settings, about lots of different things. I would like for you to practice to pull your awareness from the assumption and from the thought back into the experience. So back to your body. Feel your breath. What do you actually feel in your body right now? You might feel a tension somewhere. You can still feel your hands on your thigh and your bum in the seat. What can you hear? Smell, taste, touch. What do you feel? That is the experience. So the awakening exercise is to pull yourself into the present moment where you have an experience. And the experience changes all the time. So keep having your eyes closed, and now I would like for you to think about something. Think about an issue in your life. It can be anything. Just bring the thought into mind. And with the thought in your mind, I would like for you to draw attention to your body. What does it feel like in your body when you have that thought? Where do you feel the tension? Might be closing up in your throat area. Might be closing up in your chest area, in your stomach. You might be tense in your jaws, tense in your buttocks. Your breath might have changed. So now I would like for you to release the thought and just stay with the sensory experience in your body. And really, really notice, really, really look close into the sensory experience. So the thought, you have let go of the thought, and you just sit with the sensory experience in your body right now. Do you feel how it's changing? You feel that the tension you had in your chest or in your stomach or in your jaws or in your buttocks, you feel how it's changing all the time. And nothing remains the same, ever. You feel that? Can you stay with this experience? Let go of any thought, just stay with the experience. Really good. Make a deep breath. And open your eyes when you're ready. Shake your body if you need to. So what I would like to draw your attention to is exactly that. That there's such a huge difference between the experience that you have in the body and a thought. And when a thought comes, it is usually attached to some kind of sensation in the body. And we tend to then think that the sensation we have in the body is because of the thought, or the thought is creating the tension in the body. And that is where the assumption lies, because there is no such thing as a static sensation or a static bodily feeling, or there's no such thing. For example, if you have, let's say you have migraine, or you have pain in your body, or you have arthritis, or you have any kind of pain experience in your body. It can also be that you've got depression, or you have an anxiety, or you have IBS, or you have whatever. So if you think of that, migraine, arthritis, IBS, and anxiety, if you think of that right now, then you know, if you should describe it, that I have XX, and in my body that feels like. So for example, let's say migraine, that it's this side, and it's always the same, and it comes from the back, and then I get nauseated, and it's always the same thing that is happening. That is the assumption. That is the assumption. In reality, it's not like that at all. Because in our assumption of a migraine or IBS or anything else, in our assumption, it's a very, very static thing. It's always the same, and it's never ever changing. But reality is not like that. What you just experienced with the exercise we just did, you just experienced how everything is changing all the time. And it's the same with the pain. If you have any kind of pain in the body, which I know a lot of people, they really do. A lot of people have a lot of pain. The advantage with having pain is that you get a very, very clear awareness to the meat suit. You're not, you can't be anywhere but in the body. You cannot be in the mind. You cannot be cerebral. The huge advantage with migraine is that you can't think. You're forced to have a full awareness in your body. And that is the advantage. If you can't see it, that it's an advantage, write me in the comment section. Write me and formulate a question, and then I can make a video about it. But the advantage with having pain in the body is that you can't be anywhere else. That you need to connect with your body on that level. You need to connect with the moment, in the moment by moment, and not in the assumption of what the pain is. I hope I'm making myself clear. I have had Addison's disease, as you probably know, and part of that is also lots of pain in the body, amongst other things, also migraines. And what I used to do when I had it was going into the moment, now and now and now, and noticing the difference in it, because a migraine is ever the same, never ever. A pain is never ever the same. When I was in so much pain that I could hardly move anywhere because everything just hurt so much, that was an opportunity to stay in the body, not go anywhere else, and stay in the now, not go anywhere else, and just notice now and now and now the contentment in that. That there is nothing but contentment in that. The moment presents nothing but contentment. There's nothing else you can be with the situation that you're in. There's nowhere else to go than just feeling that sensation of contentment. So really giving yourself into the moment and what is presenting itself in the moment, and not wishing for anything else to be any different, because it can't. It can't. Yeah. So what I really would like for you to do with this exercise, I would like for you to do it in lots of different situations throughout the day. I would like for you to do the exercise that we just did, and you can do it with eyes open and eyes closed. It's completely up to you. But is that noticing the difference between the assumption of reality and then what is the experience of reality. And you will first of all, you need to practice. You need to practice. Just like you need to walk to be able to jog and need to jog before you can run. This is the same thing. You need to practice. And what you're practicing is pulling your awareness into the experience, into the sensory experience that is right now, where there's no assumption about anything. All assumptions are put away. And from there, you will start to move with flow. You start to move with synchronicity. You will see that the more you will see that you will. I'm trying to find out how to formulate this the best way. You will see that the less you interfere, the easier everything is moving. It's like if we don't interfere in any way, things are taken care of by themselves. We just interfere and create all the problems. And by not interfering, things fall into place by themselves. And that won't happen until you are in that position where you no longer have any assumptions about how the moment should be any different. But you're just in that sense of flow, of being, of movement that is just happening. And that needs practice. So practice it multiple times every single day until the next lesson. Because you will need it for the next lesson. When we start to work on the 4th and the 5th, for people that have not dealt with their own stuff, they tend to blame a lot of things on other people, because it's much easier if they just change, if they just do as you want them to do, because then you don't have to change. And that's a trap. That's a trap. So for you to have an easy 4 and 5 Fetter experience, doing this exercise is going to help you a lot. It's going to help you a lot. Also with the exercises that we're doing in the 4th and the 5th. So from now on, throughout all the Fetters that we're working with, this exercise where you keep having your experience on one side and your assumptions on the other side, and just staying with the experience, that is going to help you a lot. Yeah. So the next thing I would like to talk about, it's the body yes, body no. I've talked about it a little bit previously, and you've heard me mention it multiple times. So the body yes, body no is when you are in that pure being, where there's no interfering with what is, and you're just in that movement that is taking place. There you have direct access to the meat suit, to the bodily sensations. And you can very easily pick up on a body yes and a body no. And a body yes is when there's a sensation of expansion. It's whenever people, if somebody's asking you, do you want to go to Disney World? Then you might have a yes feeling about it. And every single feeling that you have in your body is measurable. So your pupils are going to dilate. Your breathing is going to be deeper or excited. You are going to have lots of different reactions in your body where there's a relaxation, there's an expansion. And if you have the opposite feeling with Disneyland, where it's just like, no, I do not want to do that. It's a very, very clear body no. Not doing that. Then you're going to have a contraction of your pupils. There's going to be a slight perspiration in your hands. Your heartbeat is going to change. So all these things where I talk about the body yes, body no, all of them are measurable. All of them can be measured and picked up on. Also on brain scans, they can be picked up on. What I want you to do is start to pay attention to how your body reacts. And in that you can move without obstruction in the world. So you have a very, very clear yes, I would like to do that, or no, I do not want to do that. And to work with that, you do the awakening exercise that we just talked about, where you have a focus in the moment. What is your experience? What is your assumptions? And from your sensory experience, that is where you move. That is where you feel into the body yes, the expansion, or the body no, the contraction. You can sit and play with it a bit. You can sit and do different exercises right now, or just ask yourself different things, which is a yes or a no. And then you can feel into how your body reacts. It's also a very subjective thing. For some people, it might be very in the abdominals. They can feel it. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Oh yeah, I really want to do that. For others, it's a chest thing, or for others, it's like a tingling in the fingers. So it's a very, very subjective thing. But we tend to react in the same way when it's a yes and when it's a no. So it's all about awareness, all about becoming aware of how a body yes is experienced for you, and how a body no is experienced for you. And then when I'm talking about that, I really, really would like to emphasize that if you have a very, very clear body yes experience, that I really, really want to do that. I really, really don't want to do that. So, do you want to come and clean my gutter in the next weekend? You might have a very, no, I don't. I really, really don't. I really, really don't. So you have a very clear experience of a body no. No, I don't want to do that. And then you do it anyway. First of all, thank you for coming and cleaning my gutter. And then you do it anyway. I would like for you to really pay attention to this. That there's nothing wrong in doing that. If you have a very, very clear body yes and you do the opposite, or a very, very clear body no and you do the opposite, there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in that. We have this idea that when we have a body yes, then we should always follow it. We should always go by it. And if we don't do that, we do something wrong. But please bear in mind, like what I said a million times, the moment doesn't need to be any different. So if you do or if you don't do, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a part of a practice. It's part of a practice. So for you to have a very, very clear body no, I don't want to do that, and you do it anyway, instead of judging yourself for that, then look into the experience while you're doing it. Use it as a practice, because there will be situations in your life where you don't want to do something and you have to do it anyway. Instead of creating a huge story about that, oh, I should be better to listen to that. I should be better. Are you sure? Seriously? Seriously, haven't we talked about that? The moment doesn't need to be any different. Everything is an opportunity to awaken. Every single experience in your life is an opportunity to awaken. And this moment is no different. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Use it as a practice. Use it as a practice. See it as something useful. Something that can give you insight that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So even though there are huge signs going like this direction, go this way, this is amazing, you will be so happy, and there's a body yes about it, and you go the opposite way, it's fine. It's fine. Learn from it. Experience what that is. Be curious about it. Be like an anthropologist that is experiencing a completely new territory and just look into what that experience is. You can't do anything wrong. Everything is an opportunity to awaken. So, who am I to know? Who are you to know that you should have picked that and not that? And now you might sit and ask, but then why should I pay any attention to a body yes or body no? Because it's about awakening to the moment. It's about waking up to the moment. It's about waking up to that. We have this idea of time being linear, with a past and a present and a future. It's not like that. It's not like that. And the only way you can awaken to the reality is by paying attention to your experiences, moving yourself away from the assumption. If you have an assumption saying that a body yes is where I should always go, then there's a belief. If you have an assumption saying that, I don't know, anything, it's a belief. So let go of that. Let go of that. And just stay with the experience. Stay in this moment, in this present moment, where you're moving with flow and with synchronicity, or where nothing needs to be any different than what it is. And move from there without any assumption about anything. Yeah. And that actually leads me to the next point. Because you will not believe how many times I have heard people say, I can talk myself into a body yes any point. At any point I can convince myself that a donut is a great idea and a kale smoothie is not. I can very, very easily talk myself into a body yes to the donut. And that is touching on something else that I would like to talk about. It's the wants and the needs. There's a very, very huge difference between wants and needs. Wants are very, very often ego-driven. It's things that we want. And we're talking about that in the next Fetter, the fourth Fetter, which is about desire, all the things we want. And that is a very, very clear ego thing, all the wants. There's a huge difference between the wants and then the needs, which is like a bodily necessity, like going to the bathroom, having a hug, having a glass of water, eating healthy food, getting exercise, all of those bodily necessities that we have. Those are the needs. And there's this odd thing when it comes to the wants and the needs where we almost turn into, it's the whiny toddler again. We turn into small, entitled toddlers that has a very immature attitude towards wants and needs, where we feel so entitled that, no one should tell me if I can eat a donut, if I can't eat a donut. Nobody can tell me if I should drink or shouldn't drink, or exercise, not exercise, have this McDonald's meal or whatever. Nobody can tell me about that. Well, it's just like, how far away are you from an actual experience right now? When you lock yourself into that entitlement, you completely forget the contentment in the moment. What happened to that? Did you forget? So when you have the wants pulling you in one direction, away from the need. So you want a donut, you don't want the kale smoothie, and you pull yourself away from the moment. Then get back to the experience. Sit and look at it, where you have the experience on one side and you have the assumptions on the other side, and you do it out from the body yes, body no. That is the center of the awareness. The body is body now. And then you sit with this thing that is happening, the donut, let's say, and you think about the donut, and then you really feel into the experience, not to the assumption of how great it's going to taste and all of that, but really into the experience right now. Is there an actual need for the donut? There might be. Who am I to know? But just look into it. Be curious to the bodily reaction to it. Be curious to what is actually happening in your experience. So you're guided by the body yes, body no, into the direction. And that is where you ask the question when you sit with your sensory experience, what is happening right now. So let's say visiting your mother-in-law, and it's a very, very clear body no. Make the exercise. You need to find out if it's just an assumption about you not wanting to go, or if it's really, really, a body no that is happening. So breathe, close your eyes, make contact with your body. And what is the sensory experience right now? If you make contact to the sensory experience in your body right now, how does it feel in your chest? How does it feel in your abdominals, in your buttocks? How does your body feel right now? And then you think about visiting your mother-in-law. What is happening? Do you feel a contraction? You might feel a very, very clear body no. Nope, don't want to do that. How do you know it's a body no? Do you feel the contraction in the body? The breath changing? The jaws tensing up? You might also feel the opposite. A softening. Thinking, oh, she really needs us to come and visit. So what you assumed was a body no is actually a body yes. In your experience right now, you can feel that there's an expansion, an opening in your heart, where you feel an expansion happening. And in your experience, there's a softening. Now, all these things, they are happening without words attached to it, and that's why it's so difficult, because I need to use words to guide you through these things. But I want you to experience it without words, because the moment we put on words to anything, then it becomes ego. Then I'm minimizing the experience into something limited by words. So when you do the exercises, really look into that experience sensation where no words can be attached to it, and where you just can feel if it's an expansion or a contraction. It's a feeling that you have that something is expanding or something is contracting. It's like for most people, when you hear nails on a blackboard, or you hear like a fork on a plate, it's that contraction that is happening right now. Where when you hear a baby laugh, or you hear the first birds in the morning, there's like an expansion happening. So it's that sensory experience of contraction and expansion that is happening on an energy level. So I just want to circle a bit back to the wants and the needs, because when we latch onto a want about something, we usually do that because we believe that it's going to soothe something. It's going to change something. If I have this donut, then I'm getting happy. If I get this promotion, then I'm getting happy. If I have this that I really, really want, then something will happen. And we're going to talk much more about that in the next lesson, in the next Fetter. But right now, I would just like for you to get your attention into the difference between wants and needs. Because in the body yes, body no, it's only about the needs. So we're going to talk much more about the want next time, in the next lesson, in the next fetter. But for now, I would just like for you to have the awareness about the experience of the difference of the wants and the needs, and sit and play around with it. Have different things where you feel a need, feel how that sensory is experienced, and then think of a want and feel how that sensory is experienced. And it gives you a very, very clear indication of the difference between wants and needs, and also being able to feel into that body yes, and moving with that movement without any hindrances, where there's just flow and synchronicity. Things just fall into place in front of you. And part of what I want with the Awakening curriculum is to take you from a position where you're very cerebral and living in the assumptions, in the past or in the future, where there's not much happening in the present moment. And from now on, what we're doing is always having this as the starting point, the present moment as a starting point. What is the experience? What is the bodily sensation and the bodily experience right now? In this moment, what are you experiencing right now? And that cannot be, you can't use words to describe that, because when you do, then you're removing yourself and going into the ego, into the frontal lobe that has that, ooh, I did this, I know what I'm going to do. So a huge thing about the wants that the last thing I just want to say about it is that most wants are covering up a need for something. And because that need is not being met, we divert the attention from that. So it might be that you have a need of compassion, understanding, love, a hug. It might be an underlying fear, anger, guilt, and shame. It might be a specific perception that you have in your bubble of reality that you don't want to look into. And that is when we divert our attention from that with a want. And because the need is never met, enough is never enough. It's what I call the +1 game. There's always more. But we talk about that in the next fetter. The last thing I would like to talk about is that when you are in that movement where there is an experience, from there are very, very clear clues. When you remove yourself from an assumption and you're just in that present awareness where you are in flow, and where flow is just happening, you're not deciding to move in any direction, you're moved in directions. From there are very, very clear clues. And I would like for you to see everything you have been taught until now, with the toxic starting point, with the fear, anger, guilt, and shame, the emotional indicators, with all of that. See it as clues. See it as indications for you to step back and look at it and see if you can see this as a clue, as a breadcrumb, as pointers in a certain direction, something that needs your attention, like we talked about with the toxic starting point, or with the fear, anger, guilt, and shame, the emotional indicators, that it's an area that needs your awareness, that needs your compassion, that needs your holding space for it and having love towards whatever comes up. That's all you need to do when you realize about this. And staying in that flow state, you are more prone to see the clues that are there, to see the indications that are there. Because life is easy. Life is super, super easy. Life is uncomplicated. When you're in that flow state, there is no obstruction from anything. Whatever happens is supposed to happen. Whatever happens is useful. And even though you in your mind might think that something else should have happened, it shouldn't have been in this way, that's just mind. If you get yourself back to the experience and you get yourself back to that flow state and you're just moving with what is happening, then everything is easy and uncomplicated. And a very, very clear indication that you are in the wrong direction is that life is complicated. When life is complicated, when things is complicated, when relationships are complicated, when work is complicated, when things around you are complicated, it's not the situation that is complicated, it's you that is complicating the situation. Because in itself, if you don't interfere, the situation will take care of itself. If you are interacting with people that are super, super complicated and super, super difficult to be with, if you stop trying to fix the situation and just let go of it and allow the situation to fix itself, it will fix itself because you're not interfering anymore. So life is easy. And if you don't feel that your life is easy, then do the exercise, do the awakening exercise where you daily pull your awareness into the difference between experience and assumption. And just stay with the experience and look into how much the ego and all the assumptions want to change what actually is, which can't happen. It can't happen. You can't change what is. It's all the moment is already done before you even try to start to change it. So life is easy, and move with that flow. And what you experience is that when you allow unconditional acceptance to be, then you allow the moment to be as the moment is, then that is kind of like a headlight that is pointing in a direction where life is easy and where things solves themselves if we don't interfere, if we don't try to steer things in a certain direction, but just with unconditional acceptance, back to the contentment. Be contentment in the moment. Only action that you have is kindness. So you just sit with contentment and kindness, and the unconditional acceptance in that is beaming a direction which is very, very clear. And that is where you just flow without any interference. So practicing flow is where you allow the moment to be as it is, and where there's no assumption or wish about things to be any different than how it is. And start to practice that now. Start to practice that now, because it is something that needs practice. We're so used to shaping our reality into something that we want to be in a certain way. And it's never working out the way that we want anyway. So staying with that flow sensation where you just step back and you allow things to fall into place without any interfering, and just noticing that whatever happens, it's always the right thing that happens, because every situation is useful. There's nothing that is not useful. Any situation is useful. Who are we to know what supports awakening, So the practice is noticing an experience without adding a label to it. The awakening exercise is also really good at noticing that where we used to have that idea of this too shall pass. In the moment, it is already passing. There's nothing that is fixed. There's nothing that is in a certain way always. Everything is always passing. Everything is always ever changing. And the awakening exercise is helping you noticing that. It's also a great exercise to, when you sit in the moment, for example, when I say that nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen, and life is easier, and just step back and let things fall into place. If you have a very clear idea of what needs to happen, what needs to change, really listen to that. Really be curious to that. What is it right now that you think needs to change? Because that is a clue. That is a clue. There's so many small breadcrumbs around you all the time that are very, very clear clues to what needs space, and what needs awareness, and what needs compassion, and what needs love. And usually it's things that we are very contracted around, things that we want to be different. Those are usually the things that needs the most compassion. So it's very useful for you to become aware of this, and allowing yourself to have all the thoughts. Write them down and see, what is it actually that needs space? What is it actually that needs your love, unconditional acceptance, and compassion? So I would like for you to reflect on this. If the moment does not need anything to be any different, and nothing needs to change, that means that you are everything. All labels about something being good or something being bad are mind-made. And if nothing needs to change, that means that what seemingly seems bad actually is okay. What areas of your life need space if that is true? If you look at yourself and you find out that you're petty, and nothing needs to change and nothing needs to happen, then what areas need space if that is actually true? If there's nothing wrong with having cancer, then what areas need space if that is true, that there's nothing wrong with having cancer? What areas is it that needs compassion? If contentment is all there is, then what areas need compassion and space? Needs your awareness and your love and unconditional acceptance. So an exercise that I would like for you to start to be aware of now, it is a 9 Fetter exercise, but I would like for you to start to be aware of it now. I talked a bit about it before. It's the one that when you are in that flow and synchronicity and you're just moving with that pure being, then there are lots of clues around you all the time that is indicating what needs your awareness and what needs your compassion, what needs your love. There are lots of clues into which way to move. And it's a bit like if you think of your life as a computer game, then there are lots of clues to what you need to do to get to the next level. If it was a murder mystery without the murder, then there would be lots of clues into finding the riddle. If it was a dream, if your life was a dream, and you woke up, you would do dream interpretation about it. You would look into, what did that actually mean when he said that, or I did that? What did that actually mean? And it's the same with your life. If you look back on your life, right, to a point in your life where you had a lot of issues and you didn't know what to do. Now, looking back at it, you can see it has that dreamlike feel about it when you think of it, right? It's a bit hazy, but you can see that there were very, very clear signs to what to do. All the signs were there. You knew what to do. You can, when you look back at it now, it's so obvious what you had to do. And it's the same in your life now. There's no difference. So part of the waking up is also becoming aware of that. And that is where you're moving with the body yes, body no. Where you're moving with that flow and that synchronicity, where it's like a headlight where everything in that direction is very, very clear. And there's just a movement in that direction happening. So look for the clues. So if this was a computer game, what would be the clues? Or if this was a dream, how would you interpret it? So the last thing I would like to remind you is that the only feeling is contentment. The only action is kindness, and everything else is ego. So if that is the case, then how would you go about life? If you were wise, how would you move forward in life? Spend this time with getting into a present awareness where you feel the difference in the experience, the bodily experience, and the assumption of the experience or the assumption of the situation. And separate the two. And then stay with that sensory experience. And from there, you're moved completely automatically, where there's no interfering in it. Yeah. If you have any questions, please write me in the comment section. The next video is going to be a Q&A. So all questions you have about the third fetter or about the first 3 fetters, write me in the comment section, and then I'm going to make a video where I reply to all of them. I wish you and yours all the best. Thank you.